It's about 20 minutes until the sun's going to rise, so we've got a little bit of dusk going on here. I slept for about 9 hours, so I feel good. The only reason I don't want to get up is because I'm warm and comfortable in my sleeping bag. And in order to get all my warm clothes on to get out there and start digging, I gotta get out of this sleeping bag. So sometimes you just gotta do what you gotta do. It is a beautiful, peaceful morning here. Welcome, everybody. My name is Kyle, and I am out on a 3-day solo gold mining trip. I've got a shovel-in high banker operation. I'm at 1,800 shovels over the last 2 days, and this is my last day. So I set my alarm just before sunrise. It's icy cold outside, but I cleaned out the high banker last night, so it should be ready to go. I'm gonna go fire up the pump, get that water running. I'm hoping that it doesn't freeze up too much by the time the sun comes up and actually thaws everything out. And my goal for this trip was to break records, but it turns out it's pretty hard digging here. So considering that, I've done fairly well. I'm at 1,800 shovels so far. You can see I started over here and the high banker's over there. I'm working along a bit of a pace streak here. So I'm hoping that today I can make up that last little bit, and maybe with a really good push, I can get to 10 yards total for a really nice cleanup for the end of this video. If you want to see that, stick around. Moment of truth. Let's go watch the first water at idle hit the high banker for the day here. There, just turned on. Just trickling right now. Slowly coming down through the splitter at the top. Just covering the final frost on the moss. You can see that ice build up in the top of the La Trappe. Out the bottom, where it sort of percolates down through all the rocks and all the mud settles out before it gets back to the river down there. I'm gonna start this morning clearing up the sure thing that I've panned from yesterday. And then once that sun rises, I'm gonna pan down into here and just make sure there isn't some really good high grade stuff. I gotta balance how much gold's in a shovel with how hard is that shovel to dig. I started the day out with 200 shovels, which brings me to a total of 2,000 this trip. How do you count that high, Kyle? I don't. I count to 100 and then I take it off, and then I count to the next 100. And I will admit, I kind of want to stop counting. But for this video, I started out counting. I want to finish counting because I want to know exactly how many yards I've moved, instead of assuming, oh yeah, I must have dug 500 shovels in the last hour, when really I dug, 150 or something like that. So it took me about an hour and a half to get those first 200 into the box. It's really changing. It's important that you keep panning as you go. And the layer that I'm able to dig has gotten a lot thinner. So the last 200 shovels actually covered this whole area here. Whereas back there was a thicker layer of sand, sort of like downstream end of the gravel bar, it was piling up into this thick layer of sand, and there was gold throughout that until you hit the rocks. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to test if I were to sort of try to poke down in between all these big boulders. It looks like just all sand, but you can't go through this. So I'm going to sort of test, what if I went a little deeper? Is it worth it here? And then I'm going to make sure that this side of where I'm assuming the pace streak still is, just based on the direction it was going, but it's an assumption. So I'm going to do a test pan of the surface material here, just to make sure that I'm in the right direction and steer in the direction of most gold. And the other thing I'm going to do, because it's so hard to dig in all these rocks now, I know there's some gold going down this hill here, but it's a lot harder to dig. But now it's about the same difficulty as up there. So is there more gold down here? Basically just tracking to make sure that I'm getting the most bang for my buck, considering that this is my last day out for the season. I want as much gold as I can get per shovel. When I'm test panning, I'm just taking like a half shovel, just a little bit of material. Up in this area, when I'm peeling off the surface, I was finding, say, about 70 colors in a panning shovel. So when I was throwing one into the box, I'm assuming it's about 140 colors. Now, this has changed throughout this entire run, but here's what was really interesting is, I'm not sure if you'll be able to see this, so I'm going to hop behind the camera and kind of point at what's going on here. Bear with me. There we go. Okay, so right here on the gravel bar, you may be able to see, and this is sort of like a line of grass, and then it comes down, and then this is a different layer again. So let me try zooming in here. There you can see it's all this sandy stuff, and then it kind of tips down this edge where the rocks are exposed, and then there's a little bit of sand mixed in with those rocks, and then here it's just rocks again. So gold's sort of all over, you pan and figure it out. But there's two spots I want to point at with my finger here. So if I can, where am I looking here? Okay, so there's this hole down here, and then the other hole is right there. There's a little rock, and I'm going to zoom in on both of these. So this hole here, in the amount of gravel that's taken out here, so a little half shovel, there's about 70 colors. And then if I come straight across and up probably 2 feet, this shovel here had about 80 colors, similar amount, right? And then I go over to this right here. So there's a very specific line right at the edge. So all of this sandy stuff, and then right where the rocks start to go downhill, and boom, this spot. Let me zoom out. So from there to here, there was over 300 colors in that pan. So there's a very narrow section between 70 colors here, 80 colors here, go down there, down to 70 again, just right along here where I'm seeing 300 colors in a shovel like this. And it holds true up there. I did a couple little pans. So that is why it's really important to test pan very precisely. Don't ever assume, oh, it's all the same stuff. So given the amount of time I have, I'm going to start focusing. Whoop, sorry about that. Stepped into a test panning hole. I'm going to focus right on this band. So I know that up there holds gold, and there's a bit of sand in there, so I can get big shovels out of it. And then down into here, I'm going to make sure I don't come too low, because I've done a couple test pans down here and it does drop right away. But right this little edge, about 2 feet wide, really good gold in there. So I'm going to clean out a section of that, come all the way back towards my high banker, where again, I've missed this section starting there, all the way out. Roll over some boulders, just make sure I get all that really high paying ground. Then I'm going to test pan underneath that and make sure that it was just all on the surface, and just roll along there. Even if I'm hiking a little bit versus moving the box a whole bunch, I think it's worth it for 300 colors in a little shovel like that. Phenomenal. Sun is a shining. She's a beautiful day. And the pump just stopped. Which brings back some bad memories. I'm going to walk down here. I'm going to walk down there with a gas tank. It's been 2 hours on this tank. I didn't realize that. So I'm just fingers crossed I'm out of gas. So I'm out of gas. It's a good thing. I can fix that. Come on, come on, we're on the good stuff. Don't quit now. Empty. Yes. Alrighty. That is a very good thing. Kick that lock out, and kind of a handy little drip-free tank. There you go. Okay, fuel's back in. I was at 79 shovels of my current 100. Let's give it a choke for the first start. And just a tip. If you pull this cord from here, you get some speed and then it locks. Right there, you can potentially snap your cord, you know, over time. So what I recommend, and this is for all engines, is pull till it locks. So now it's actually engaged. Then I forgot to throttle down apparently, but it means she's all set. Time to start putting dirt in the box. Woo! All right, this is the good stuff. Feed me, I am hungry. Absolute destruction. All the way down. The trap's running beautifully, holding material like it should. Double level. Every once in a while I miss the hopper there. Good day. Come look at this. Like, seriously. I'm gonna go like this. So I'm walking down to the river's edge. And I see this. Now I'm gonna do the little zoom to normal button. Get my gold pen in here for scale. Oh, that's actually causing some shadows. I haven't been barefoot. I'm pretty sure that's a bear, barefoot. So you got, according to my hand, right? You got the pad back here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Interestingly enough, right next to it, so there's the mama, and you got this little pad here. 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't know where 5 is. So I don't really know too much about tracks. Here's another one coming down to the river. So there's your pad and the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But I've been keeping my bear spray outside of the tent, by my tent during the day. And I assume that I'm making enough noise and everything. Nobody's gonna bug you. And then when I go to bed at night, I leave it just inside my tent. And I sleep soundly, assuming there's no bears around. But obviously, you know, I'm in their neighborhood. That's pretty cool, hey? Walking around, probably came down here, noticed my tent and, you know, walked around and a little reality check there, hey? Anyways, this is the last test pan I'm gonna do. If she checks out, I'm gonna, 100 shovels, pack up the tent, see where we are. I'm about an hour behind schedule. I'll be leaving by 3 p.m., which should be a comfortable amount of daylight to head downriver and safely get loaded up onto my car. Got some clouds coming in here, so this snowstorm that's going to end the season may be on its way. So yeah, got to race that out of here. Just a quick summary. I did a final cleanup. I'm at 2,200 shovels total. So just north of 8 cubic yards. And the section I've run here, I'm just going to walk this with you. It's 22 paces, which I have calculated out as about 66 feet. And on average, it's 12 feet wide. So I've kind of picked the surface off of everything, coming all the way up to where I finished. I'll point the camera here for you. This little area here. So as I was coming along and dealing with this whole area, there was a section of really rich ground right down here, just where these rocks started to go off the edge, and it tapered down to nothing down there. So I dug that for a little bit, but it completely disappeared, and there's like no gold here anymore. So you always got to keep an eye on where the gold was, why it was going here. I have no idea, but this is the area that I worked, 8 cubic yards. Let's go home and see how much gold is in that. Oh, buddy, that was a little more exciting than I would have wanted it to be. So, something to put this into context. I forgot to bring my rubber boots. I should probably make a little checklist of essentials. But if I run aground and I don't have my rubber boots, I'm hooped. So right now, sun's back out behind the clouds. It's a little more cheerful looking, but I'm on that river and it gets really real because you're like, I'm out here by myself. No cell phone reception. If I run aground, there's big consequences. Like, I would freeze my feet right off if I, like, it's just, yeah. So I almost actually did run aground, but luckily there was a bird that was sitting in about that 2 inches of water in a gravel bar just chilling, and I was able to redirect course. And with the big bunch of clouds that we're in during this trip, you can't really see anywhere nearly as good as you should. So yeah, it was a little bit sketchy, but we made it back. I saw the highway bridge where I'm parked and I just breathed a big sigh of relief. All I got to do now is just drive safe, get home, and think about my life decisions. Just driving home through a snowstorm after jet boating on a river. Another day in the life. I've got a pretty comfortable setup here. It's nice and warm in the garage. And we're going to start out by running through the hopper. So I can open that up. So everything that I got out of that hopper, this is 3 cleanouts. And really not a ton of material in here. We have not sure if we can have a closer look up at this, but we're going to be throwing that into here and letting her slowly feed. Oh, I can already see the gold. Well, there's some working its way down. All these flakes are just peeling off the pile real nice. Already starting to show in that black sand. Every single thing I'm running in this, by the way, is screened to -30 mesh. And I found 3 flakes in the entire run of all 3 levels that were over 30 mesh. They were under 20 mesh and over 30 mesh. So really, really fine stuff in this location. You can see the gold showing already as it's slowly feeding and tumbling its way down the auto feeder, which leads into the main sluice. Got some micro mat, rough top conveyor belt, and mini mat. Just a touch of dish soap as well as some jet dry in the water. I'm going to try to catch some of the heavies in here just to pan those out of curiosity. Slowly flowing nice and even out of this tub to keep my recirculating water clean, and back down to my little 1100 gallon per hour pump that is feeding the whole system. I take a snuffer bottle full of water, and just the stuff that's up on the edge here, I can kind of push that down and into the stream so it doesn't get left up on the banks. What's really kind of cool is this run that you're watching right now is all just from the hopper. So I did 3 cleanouts of this hopper moss right here. This is a backed miner's moss. This was an entry mat I got at Costco years ago, actually. And the reason I put this here wasn't necessarily to capture gold. That's just a bonus. It was because I didn't want it shooting off of a slick aluminum plate and then firing onto these grizzly bars, because then you get that thing where the water kind of all shoots just down onto the ground. This actually did a really good job of slowing everything down and just letting it feed in. When it wasn't all plugged up with organic material, the water was all flowing in right at the top of this grizzly, so it worked really, really well. Pretty cool looking stuff. This is the final run of everything that was in the Latrap sluice, which I was using as a tailings sluice behind that high banker. I probably cleaned out the Latrap sluice about 6 times to make sure I wasn't getting any excessive losses from restarts. I've put a bunch of this in already, and I'm just going to show you why I like it. It's very promising. You can see it's just gold mixed in absolutely everywhere. So I was concerned it would just be so much material there'd be no gold in it. It wouldn't be very concentrated, but that's the first run already and it's just everywhere. But I've actually split this into 2 buckets. So this is everything that is minus 30 mesh plus 50 mesh. And then I have another bucket with the same amount of material that's everything sub 50 mesh. And the only reason I did that was the sub 50 stuff's just so mucky, it's really gonna mess up the water and make it all muddy and stuff, so I wanted to do that at the very end. And I'm curious what percentage of my gold is above 50 mesh and what is below 50 mesh, because this location is like nothing I've ever seen. It is all so ridiculously fine. Usually I see, you know, a few better sized flakes in there, but very promising in this aspect. However, my cleanup sluice, which I did design a little bit bigger to deal with more material like this, it's just, this is going to take a while. So I would actually consider maybe using that high banker, setting up some form of mat in that high banker and just running everything from all 3 cleanups through here to reduce it down before coming to this sluice. But that's for the distant future. For now, I've got it set up, I'm going to keep running it, and I'll just sort of be here for a good part of the day. With the last setup, I was seeing about 30% in my hopper. I think it's going to be less this time, because it's a shorter piece and more water flow. And I was getting an additional 10% in the Latrap when I was using the Dream mats. But I think this miner's moss is doing a much better job of capturing the fine gold, so I'm expecting to see a smaller percentage in the Latrap. Here's the very last of that absolute powder gold, just sort of working its way down the feeder, trickling off the bottom end. And if this is going to show up at all, actually looking like it's filling things up quite nicely down here. So to me, it looks like there's going to be more negative 50 gold than plus 50 gold on this run, but we'll see after the weigh-in. All right, everybody, to my subscribers, you've probably already seen this process, but if somebody's fresh watching this video for the first time, I'm just going to show you how my miller table works. What this is it's just a large flat surface. I've got a Hobbyco cutting mat on it. So this surface here it's pretty much smooth, but it's sort of the equivalent to like blackboard paint. It's just a very slight texture and it's rough. And what I'm going to do here is, this is everything that's concentrated down from my cleanup sluice from the Latrap. And so the way this works, if I can find my spoon here, is I'm going to take a spoonful of this material. I'm quite concentrated, so I don't want to drop it. And what happens is the gold that is really fine actually is in flat flakes. So those flat flakes, they sit on this material, and because of the way the surface tension works, when the water is directly next to this surface, it hardly moves. But then if you come up like a millimeter, it starts to move a little bit quicker, and you come up another millimeter and it moves even quicker. So because the gold is flat, it actually sticks to this surface and there's no moving water. All of the black sand, however, is round and rolls away. So you can see that gold is sitting still, whereas that black sand is starting to roll away. So that is sort of how this works. Once you get enough spooned on, I take a really light fan brush, got this at an art supply store, and brush across the flow like this. If it's not quite set up right and you brush like this, you can get a dry spot, which you can see behind the brush, and that will pick up your gold and flush it down the table. Oh, and this whole table only works if you use a non-ionic surfactant of some sorts, like jet dry. So that's why when you look at the bottom here, this section is like a constant curtain of water going all the way across. It's not just dribbling. That only works because I have added jet dry. Now, this is all still sitting here. I need to add a little bit more angle to get this to work. So all I do is I put a shim. I'm just gonna lift this up, set it on there, set her back down. Excuse my clumsy videoing. So everything is peeling away really nicely. In places where it tends to sit like this, you just brush across to the flow, clears everything out of there really nice, and sends it down the table. -20 mesh works, but -30 mesh works a little bit better. I've taken the support off of this end, and I've turned down the water flow. The reason you turn down the water flow is because once you've been doing this a while, you start getting some recirculation of all of the little muck coming back up and around, and you want your gold clean. So I keep the water running, but very low, so then you don't get, dirty water providing fresh muck here. Always start with fresh water, and it helps with that. And then by lowering this table down to the point where that end of the table is actually very slightly higher than this end, I now have a slight pool of water. So you can see water's kind of pooling up here a little bit, and that gives you enough water depth that you can use your snuffer bottle to snuffer everything up. So doesn't look like much, and it isn't. This is just what the tailings La Trappe caught. So the less gold here, the better my system is working. But you go from being pretty much invisible gold, just all spread out, and then once you brush it together, so this section here, I'll just brush a few times, start collecting everything, and you can see how it just forms a line of gold that's visible all of a sudden. So it is kind of cool. Ideally, you can put about a ½ ounce of gold on this table. Once you get over a ½ ounce of gold, there's just so much gold that you got to sweep it up, suck it out, and then start over again. This is everything that is +50 mesh. And remember, the +50 actually looked like I have more -50 than this. So here is where you actually start seeing something add up. This is that -50 mesh working away. Now, to me, it feels like I've been filming this absolutely forever. It's been a long day. So I hope that you're still entertained here. But, like, the quantity of ultra fine material here is just unreal. That is your -50. Unreal. Wow. You can see the brush strokes, like the lines left from the brush. It is so incredibly fine. And there's a lot of it. I think there's more here than there was on the last +50 run. This is gonna be exciting. Wow. All -50 mesh gold. Unreal. Wow. I'm excited to see what this weighs. The hopper, the little piece of moss at the top, collected 0.44 grams of gold. There it is. The La Trappe, which I used on the tailings, I did about 6 cleanups twice a day. Pretty much when I shut down, I cleaned up, and I actually kept this thing nice and level. It was running well. In the past, when I was getting 10% of my total gold in the La Trappe, it was actually running less well, just to show you how much better the main mats are doing right now.
So 0.25 grams in the La Trappe. And this was just for my own curiosity. Every single thing I ran. So all of this stuff, including everything, all of the tailings from that, from my cleanup sluice, I ran them all a second time, which was a massive waste of time, considering I only got 0.08 grams running it all a second time. That's actually a good thing. It means that my cleanup sluice is working very well, and in the future, I can run everything once and call it good. Okay, so here's your total. The main sluice plus 50 mesh had 1.71 grams of gold. That's sitting right here. And the minus 50 mesh was 3.88. So the majority of that, 69% of it, was minus 50 mesh. Some pretty fine looking stuff right here. And I'm going to throw this all in the vials and then go over our totals. So here it is. This is 6.36 grams of gold, all neatly tucked away in a vial. It actually has some weight to it. Give it a little shake. I was hoping for 8 grams or a quarter ounce, because that just would have been a cool milestone. And unfortunately, I didn't hit it. But I gotta say, it's better than a kick in the teeth, right? Like, considering how my summer went, this is a really good result. So just looking through some numbers here, every 100 shovels was 0.29 of a gram at this location. To get 1 gram would be 345 shovels, or 1.28 yards per gram. And assuming an average of about 100 colors per shovel, the number of flakes here, I did 2,200 shovels, and I really wanted to stop counting, but I wanted that number. So that means that there are 220,000 little colors in this vial, almost 250,000 flakes of gold right here. What can I say? Like, I'm pretty happy with how everything turned out. Obviously, more gold is better, but this is the best I've done this year. And to anyone who has watched the video right to the end, thank you for watching. And smash that like button. Help the YouTube algorithm get this out there. Share it with a friend. I've set this video so you can share it on a Facebook site if you want, or on a forum somewhere. If you think anyone would be interested in watching this video, by all means, share it with your friends. Get the word out. And until next year, I think this is my last jet boat mining video. So hopefully I'll come up with something interesting for you over the winter. And until next time, thank you for watching. We'll leave the ending shot right like that. And hope you guys all have a wonderful evening.